Chapter 301, Captured by Entertainment Journalists. Huo Liancheng did not answer Jian Yun's question. Instead, he leaned over to kiss her. You asked me to wait for so long. Do you want to make it up to you? Jian Yun quickly put her hand on Huo Liancheng's chest to stop him from approaching. You're smoking? This is a shuyan. It's tasteless. Huo Liancheng grabbed Jian Yun's hand and continued to approach her with his handsome face. That's also a cigarette. Jian Yun did not want to be fooled. Yesterday, he smoked a cigar and kissed her, almost choking her to death. She hated the smell of cigarettes. It really doesn't smell like smoke. It's still the smell of peppermint. Try it if you don't believe me. Huo Liancheng tried his best to coax her. Hey, there are so many people outside. Jian Yun was not as strong as Huo Liancheng. She turned around and wanted to run, but Huo Liancheng grabbed her and kissed her at the same time. Jian Yun subconsciously wanted to resist, but at the same time, she also realized that there was no smoke in his mouth. There was only a faint peppermint smell. Only then did her tightly knitted brows slowly open. This kiss did not linger for long. After all, there were still many people watching, and Huo Liancheng did not want to be watched. He was addicted to it, so he let go of Jian Yun. Let's go. Huo Liancheng held Jian Yun's hand and walked to the car parked by the road. After getting into the car, he looked at Jian Yun, whose face was flushed red. He squinted his eyes and smiled. Why do you still blush so easily? You have to care about blushing too? Jian Yun glanced at Huo Liancheng. It's as cute as the first time I saw you. Huo Liancheng pinched Jian Yun's cheek and said with a smile. The first time you saw me, isn't it that time? Jian Yun asked curiously. She was indeed very curious. Why did he catch her so coincidentally back then? No. Huo Liancheng's eyes were gentle. He kissed Jian Yun again and said, even earlier, the photo in my wallet was taken when I first saw you. Jian Yun thought for a moment and her eyes suddenly lit up. I know, then I should have seen you before, because when I first arrived at Yellow Mountain, I always felt that someone's following me. What do you mean by following me? You make me sound very wretched. Huo Liancheng was not happy. You are a pervert to begin with. Jian Yun bared her teeth. Otherwise, why would you secretly take pictures of me? Because you are good-looking and very kind. Huo Liancheng said calmly. It is publicly acknowledged that you are good-looking, but how do you know that you are kind? Jian Yun asked in confusion. She touched her face and said, could it be that the words I am a good person are written on my face? What do you want to eat in the afternoon? Huo Liancheng did not answer Jian Yun, but quickly changed the topic. He would never tell her that he was still following her despite being seriously ill and in despair. In the end, he asked her for help, because during the days he followed her, he saw that she would not only take care of the homeless elderly and children, but also buy food to feed the cats and dogs. Jian Yun looked at Huo Liancheng strangely. She could feel that he did not want to continue this topic. After thinking for a while, she followed his words and said, you decide. Okay. Huo Liancheng started the car. It was not until the car drove far away that a young man walked out of a convenience store at the entrance of the neighborhood. His hair was messy, and he was thin and small. He wore black-framed glasses, but the most eye-catching thing was the single-lens camera hanging around his neck. Because the camera was too big, he was especially thin. I didn't expect that before I arrived at Chengyuan. I would have taken a picture of Huo Liancheng. He really has no heart. This time Weibo will definitely blow up. The man looked at the photos in the camera one by one. He smiled so much that his eyes narrowed together. He looked very pleased with himself. His name was Zhao Xiaoming. He was a paparazzi and specialized in taking photos of Agoric. The secret of many celebrities was revealed by their team. Yesterday, he had received news that the recent popularity of Hua Cheng had appeared in this unremarkable residential area, which was why he had come here to wait. However, he had not waited for Cheng Yuan to appear. Instead, he had waited for Huo Liancheng. Who was Huo Liancheng? He was the successor of the Huo family, a legendary figure in the business world. He also had a handsome appearance that was even more dazzling than a celebrity. There were countless female fans on Weibo and Tiba, but he had always kept a low profile. There were very few photos of him, let alone his private life. Today, he, Zhao Xiaoming, could actually take pictures of him kissing a woman. He could already predict that if this news were to be released, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Zhao Xiaoming was very proud of himself. He immediately took out his phone and called the editor-in-chief of the He. At the same time, Huo Liancheng and Jian Yun finished their meal. Huo Liancheng asked Jian Yun if she wanted to go to the Mings to work again. Go, or else, what if you are hooked by the vixen? Jian Yun deliberately raised her face. Don't worry, I only recognize you as a vixen. I won't even look at other women. Huo Liancheng was in a good mood and reached out to pinch Jian Yun's face. Why do you keep pinching my face? I'm not a bun. Jian Yun slapped Huo Liancheng's hand away. When do you plan to go to work? Huo Liancheng smiled and held Jian Yun's hand instead. Tomorrow? Jian Yun thought for a while and squinted her eyes. Tomorrow is Thursday. I can rest for 2 days. Up to you, Huo Liancheng smiled. By the way, Mrs. Bernard called me and asked why your phone was switched off. Mrs. Bernard? They came back from France? Jian Yun raised her eyebrows. Yes. At that time, she said she would be back in a month at most. Give her a call when you have time. She said Kilui misses you very much. Huo Liancheng took a sip of tea and looked at the time. He looked up and asked Jian Yun, "Are you done eating?" "Yes." Jian Yun also took a sip of water. She picked up her phone and dialed Mrs. Bernard's number. After she paid the bill and got into the car, Jian Yun hung up the phone. Huo Liancheng turned to look at her. She curled her lips and said, "I was scolded by her. She said that I did not treat her as a friend and did not tell her about such a big incident at home." "And then?" Huo Liancheng asked. "Then I have to go to her house on the weekend." Jian Yun shrugged. "I'm fine this Saturday. I'll go with you." Huo Liancheng rubbed Jian Yun's head and messed up her long hair. "Okay." Jian Yun pursed her lips and supported her chin with her hand. She tilted her head and looked at Huo Liancheng. "What? Why are you looking at me like that?" Huo Liancheng drove the car and glanced at Jian Yun out of the corner of his eye. "I was thinking about Yan Yan." Jian Yun curled her lips and said, "What about her?" Huo Liancheng asked casually. "You won't be interested." Jian Yun did not intend to tell Huo Liancheng that he did not know Luo Yanyan. Furthermore, he was usually very cold, so her intuition told her that he would not be interested in listening to these gossips. "I am interested in everything related to you," Huo Liancheng said. Jian Yun hesitated for a moment and told Huo Liancheng about what had happened to Luo Yanyan. Later, when Odd Chen went to cook, she and Luo Yanyan and Wu Wenjing chatted and knew more details. However, the more she knew, the angrier she became. "Sai, I feel that Yanyan is really sad. In her, it is very good to show that her character determines her fate." Jian Yun sighed. Chapter 302, Once and for All. "Isn't it reflected in you?" Huo Liancheng sneered. "If I don't go look for you, are you going to hide from me for the rest of your life?" "No." Jian Yun looked at Huo Liancheng from the corner of her eye and said casually, "I will definitely come back for you." "Really?" Huo Liancheng asked. Huo Liancheng turned to look at Jian Yun and his deep black eyes lit up. "Of course." Jian Yun rolled her eyes and saw that there was no car in front of her. The road was wide and there was no one around. She then said slowly, "I will definitely come back to divorce you. If I don't divorce you, how can I look for my second spring?" Creak. Sure enough, the moment she said that, Jian Yun heard the sound of Huo Liancheng stepping on the brakes. Fortunately, this road was remote and there were no cars. Otherwise, it would really be dangerous. Huo Liancheng suddenly turned the steering wheel and parked the car on the roadside. He then leaned over. Jian Yun was prepared and immediately went to the handlebars. She wanted to run away, but Huo Liancheng was faster. He pressed the middle control lock. Jian Yun could not open the door, so she quickly greeted Huo Liancheng's dangerous eyes with a smile. "President Huo, are you thirsty? There is water here." Jian Yun took out a thermos cup from her bag. She was used to bringing hot water to drink when she went out. Recently, she had brought a thermos cup with her. "How dare you say that again?" Huo Liancheng's eyes were filled with anger, and his handsome face was also hideous and terrifying. Jian Yun carefully shook her liver and carefully said, "You asked me. You want to divorce me so much?" Huo Liancheng was furious. I'm just joking." Jian Yun's mouth twitched. She was just joking. Why did he have such a big reaction? This kind of joke is not allowed in the future. I will take it seriously. Huo Liancheng turned his face away and his voice turned cold. Jian Yun looked at Huo Liancheng's cold and perfect face and saw his thick abs apple slide up and down a few times. She felt an inexplicable sense of irritation in her heart. But Jian Yun also understood that her joke was indeed a little too much. Her eyelashes trembled. She reached out to pull Huo Liancheng's sleeve and softly said, "I'm sorry." Huo Liancheng turned to look at Jian Yun. He narrowed his eyes as if he did not expect Jian Yun to apologize. In his impression, she had always had a bad and stubborn temper. Even if it was her fault, she would not admit it. Why did she change her temper now? "Don't be angry. I won't talk nonsense in the future." Jian Yun narrowed her eyes, blinked her big eyes, and started to act cute towards Huo Liancheng. "I said you love me," Huo Liancheng said coldly. Jian Yun's eyes twitched and her face turned red. "You said you loved me." Huo Liancheng saw Jian Yun only looking at him and asked again. Jian Yun opened her mouth, and her lips moved a few times, but she could not say those 3 words. Instead, she was extremely embarrassed. Huo Liancheng waited for a long time but did not hear the 3 words he wanted to hear. He could not help but secretly sigh. His handsome face could not hide the disappointment. Jian Yun saw that Huo Liancheng did not look at her, but turned his head to look outside the window. She immediately felt empty in her heart. It was as if a corner had fallen, making her have the urge to cry. "I'm sorry," Jian Yun said in a low voice. "Why do you say I'm sorry?" Huo Liancheng lit a cigarette and took a few deep breaths before asking. The car was filled with smoke. Jian Yun could not see Huo Liancheng's eyes. She could only feel the coldness radiating from his body. She began to regret this joke. The originally good atmosphere had been completely ruined. She did not know that he would mind this topic so much. Huo Liancheng saw that Jian Yun did not speak. He impatiently extinguished the cigarette he had just taken a few breaths and asked again, "Do you like me at all?" "Yes." Jian Yun was afraid that he would misunderstand and hurriedly said, "So, you just like it? It's not love?" The smoke ring dispersed and Huo Liancheng's face became clear again, but the cold light in his eyes made Jian Yun scared. No. Jin Yun quickly denied. No need to say it. Hu Liancheng suddenly stepped on the gas and the car suddenly roared. Jian Yun's words were covered by the noise. Even she could not hear what she said. Bentley rushed out. Jian Yun was so scared that she grabbed the handrail of the car roof and screamed, "Don't drive so fast." Hu Liancheng slowed down until he entered the house. He did not say a word. Jian Yun wanted to talk to him several times, but she kept her mouth shut when she saw his cold face. She really felt like she was in a dream. They were so sweet before, but suddenly they started to quarrel for no reason. Jian Yun was also a little angry. She had said something wrong, but why didn't he listen to her explanation? Jian Yun felt that with Hu Liancheng's personality, he would definitely have a cold war with her again. It was because she wanted to go back to her room as soon as she entered, and she didn't want to see his cold face. However, Jian Yun had just entered the room, and before she could close the door, her vision turned black. Then, she was picked up by someone. When Jian Yun reacted, she was already pressed onto the bed. Hu Liancheng's kiss fell on Jian Yun like a storm. She was kissed so hard that she could hardly breathe, but what happened next made her so embarrassed that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. He actually wanted to bring tools with high difficulty again. No, Jian Yun wanted to run but was grabbed back by Hu Liancheng. Immediately, she struggled to resist. When everything was over, Jian Yun was so angry that she was about to go crazy. At the same time, she was so embarrassed that she wanted to die. However, because of the fight earlier, they did not communicate with each other throughout the entire process, except when she cried out in Therefore, she did not want to take the initiative to talk to. After Hu Liancheng finished exercising, his mood was no longer as depressing. He leaned on Jian Yun's body. Sweat dripped down. Are you angry? Hu Liancheng pinched Jian Yun's cheeks. Jian Yun turned her face away and dodged Hu Liancheng's hand. She wanted to push him away, but he was too heavy. She could not push him at all. She became even angrier. Go away. You provoked me first. Hu Liancheng turned Jian Yun's face and kissed her with a smile. You hurt my heart and you still don't want me to give you anything in return? Jian Yun pursed her lips and did not say anything. She also ignored Hu Liancheng. All right, I apologize to you. Don't be angry. Tell me what you want. I will definitely satisfy you. Hu Liancheng smiled even more happily. Every time he saw Jian Yun angry, he would be very happy because she was too cute when she was angry. I want you to stay away from me. Jian Yun glared at Hu Liancheng. I hate it so much. I have to take medicine again. I'm sorry. It was really an accident this time. Hu Liancheng kissed Jian Yun and apologized sincerely. He was really angry this time. Otherwise, he would not have done it without taking any measures. Hu Liancheng saw that Jian Yun was still angry. He kissed her and said, When I have time to sterilize, it will be over. Chapter 303, Suda Hai's Apology. Jian Yun suddenly opened her eyes wide. Her eyes were full of shock. She thought she had misheard, so she asked again, What did you say? What are you going to do? You didn't hear wrong. Hu Liancheng narrowed his eyes and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold arc. I'm going to perform sterilization surgery. You're crazy. Jian Yun looked at Hu Liancheng as if she was looking at a madman. She did not expect him to have such thoughts. She could not tell whether he was joking or telling the truth. I am not crazy. I have such thoughts long ago. I do not like children. Hu Liancheng took Jian Yun's long hair away from her face. His eyes were clear and he was indeed awake. Then how do you explain it to your family? Jian Yun could not believe it. She felt that Hu Liancheng was not crazy. She was about to go crazy. What is there to explain? Hu Liancheng rolled over and laid down. He spread his limbs and said quietly, At most, I will give up the inheritance. I do not want that cold and dirty family head position at all. Jian Yun propped up her upper body and turned sideways to look at Hu Liancheng. Her brows were tightly knitted together. Why did she feel that he had become even colder, like the cold moon on an iceberg, and his entire body was emitting a cold and hard aura? Is your family's relationship very complicated? Jian Yun asked hesitantly. Is it complicated? Hu Liancheng's eyes showed a trace of confusion, then he smiled. It should be. Jian Yun thought Hu Liancheng was smiling, but his smile did not reach her eyes. There was coldness in the corner of his eyes. But, Jian Yun pressed her face against Hu Liancheng's chest. Listening to his strong heartbeat, she said softly, But I like children. You sterilize them. Do you want me to give birth to someone else? Don't provoke me again. Hu Liancheng hugged Jian Yun and lifted her chin. He stared into her eyes and said unhappily, I don't want to provoke you. I'm serious. I like babies. Jian Yun looked into Hu Liancheng's eyes and said in a deep voice, What's so good about kids? They are not only troublesome, but also troublesome. They need to be pregnant for 10 months. Hu Liancheng frowned and his eyes were full of disgust. Other people's children are troublesome. No matter how you look at them, they are so cute. Jian Yun's eyes were sparkling. When she was 20 years old, her birthday wish was to get married and have children before she was 26 years old. Now that she was married, she seemed to be far away from the goal of having children. I don't like it, but I don't like it. It's enough that I have you. One more person is a burden. Hu Liancheng was unmoved. Jian Yun was really speechless. There was actually someone like Hu Liancheng who thought his child was a burden? How about we make a bet? Jen Yun rolled her eyes and suddenly said, What do you want to bet? Wu Liancheng asked. I don't want to take medicine this time. I want to see if I will get pregnant. Jen Yun probed. Wu Liancheng frowned when he heard her. Clearly, he did not want to take the risk, but when he saw Jen Yun's face full of expectation and eagerness, he thought for a while and finally nodded. Okay, but if you are not pregnant this time, you are not allowed to mention this again in the future. Okay, Jen Yun nodded. Actually, she was also clueless about pregnancy. However, she suddenly remembered that she had just said that. When Wu Liancheng really agreed, she felt a little upset. She was not ready to be a mother yet. Was she really going to get pregnant like this? Moreover, the relationship between her and Wu Liancheng was so unstable. However, there was no turning back. Since she had already said it, Jen Yun could not go back on her words. She could only comfort herself. She really liked Wu Liancheng, and she was also looking forward to the appearance of the baby they gave birth to. Wu Liancheng rested for a while, and then went to the company. After an inexplicable quarrel and an inexplicable reconciliation, Jen Yun still had to gamble whether she would get pregnant. Jen Yun felt that the relationship between her and Wu Liancheng was very strange. Jen Yun was bored at home alone and started to clean up. However, she thought about it. Maybe Wu Liancheng's seed was already in her stomach and she had to be careful to protect it. So she opened the piano cover and played the piano. Speaking of which, although Wu Liancheng's piano had always been here, she had been ignoring it since Jen Yun came in. She did not even want to touch it. However, when she came back this time, she was in high spirits and played for a while every day. Jen Yun had also thought about the change in her mind. She estimated that she had regarded the piano as him. Previously, she did not know that she liked him and did not want to touch his things. Now that she understood her feelings, she naturally let go of everything. However, Jen Yun was also very troubled. Why could she not say those 3 words? Could it be that her feelings for him had not reached the stage of love? Just like? While she was lost in her thoughts, Jen Yun heard the phone ring. She thought it was Wu Liancheng, so she didn't see it clearly and answered it. You're at the company? Jen Yun pressed the keyboard and her voice was soft. The other end of the phone was silent. Jen Yun felt strange. Why aren't you talking? Are you still angry? Yun Duo, it's me. The other side finally spoke, but it was Shu Haiyang's voice. Jen Yun immediately wanted to hang up the phone. She did not want to think of Shu Haiyang at all now. Yun Duo, wait a moment. Listen to me, okay? Shu Haiyang seemed to have sensed Jen Yun's sudden change in aura and hurriedly called out. What else do we have to say? Jen Yun took a deep breath and tried her best to suppress the anger in her heart. She asked with a cold smile. Yun Duo, I'm sorry. I was also bewitched at that time. I also regret it very much. I just don't want you and him to, Shu Haiyang said in pain. What right do you have to not think about it? Who are you to me? Ever since you did that thing and said those words, we had nothing to do with each other. Jen Yun was excited. She really thought she was stupid enough to have fantasies about Shu Haiyang. She admitted that she had not forgotten Shu Haiyang completely before that night. She had also imagined that she would accept Shu Haiyang again, if it was possible. However, all her fantasies were completely destroyed after Shu Haiyang drugged her. Now, she even felt disgusted when she mentioned him. Yun Duo, I love you. I have always loved you. I can't forget you, Shu Haiyang shouted. You love me? Is this how you love me? I don't know you and Lin Lanlan. No way, and then you forbid me from having a new relationship? Shu Haiyang, stop trying to make me sick. Jen Yun was so angry that she laughed. I am not unclear with her. Yun Duo, don't believe what others say. I do not want to ruin your relationship. I'm just worried about you. Why do you want to be with Wu Liancheng? You can't afford to offend him. I'm afraid you'll be fooled by him, Shu Haiyang said anxiously. Chapter 304. Civilians and Wealthy Families. Thank you for your concern. Jen Yun sneered. She knew that Shu Haiyang had been silent for so many years. He must have been certain that she would not be able to find a man with good conditions. He was not in a hurry. He thought that as long as he came back to find her, she would rush into his arms and be with him regardless of past grudges. Who would have thought that she could find a man like Wu Liancheng who could not be compared to Shu Haiyang in all aspects? That was why Shu Haiyang was anxious. He came back to find her and used all kinds of means to destroy her and Wu Liancheng in front of her. Yun Duo, Wu Liancheng's family's conditions are not something a commoner like you can get along with. You should know that it is not easy to marry into a wealthy family, and a man like Wu Liancheng, he can't be alone with you. He doesn't know how many women he has out there. Can you bear all of this? Shu Haiyang could tell Jen Yun was in a rage. He quickly poured out the words in his heart. Shu Haiyang, don't you care too much? Jen Yun calmed down at this time. The last bit of affection she had for Shu Haiyang had disappeared. This man could only be the green figure in her memories. Yun Duo, you don't listen to me now? It's too late to regret in the future. Shu Haiyang still wanted to persuade Jen Yun. You are now captivated by him. When he doesn't want you, you will understand what I said today. Following a man who cannot marry you, are you really willing to live like this forever? Enough. Jen Yun could not take any more. Shu Haiyang, she said angrily. I will say it again. I do not need you to worry about me. I am free to be with anyone. Furthermore, even if one day I am dumped by Huo Liancheng, I will not accept you anymore. You are disgusting. That's it. Don't contact me anymore. Yunduo, Su Haiyang panicked. Don't. Also, I have to thank you. If it weren't for your cup of milk tea, I wouldn't have known that I had fallen in love with him. However, Jian Yun did not want to hear Su Haiyang's voice anymore. After saying that, she hung up the phone. She was really angry. She trusted Su Haiyang so much but was deceived by him again and again. What a joke. He cheated. Now that she had a man, she still wanted to drive a wedge between them. It seemed that Wu Wenjing was really accurate when it came to judging people. When she first went to university, she took Su Haiyang to see her 3 roommates. At night, when they were in high spirits and had a recital, Wu Wenjing honestly and impolitely said that she did not like Su Haiyang. She said that this person had peach blossoms in his eyes. One look, and one could tell he was unreliable. It was really a memory from a long time ago. While Jian Yun was still in a daze, she heard her phone ring again. She picked up her phone and looked at it. Huo Liancheng's 3 words entered her eyes. She pursed her lips and picked up the phone. Hello. What's wrong? Huo Liancheng could hear Jian Yun's nasal voice. He asked, Are you still angry with me? Yes, it hurts. She was indeed a little annoyed. He was too rude when he was exercising at noon, which made her feel a little pain even now. Then I will be gentle tonight. Huo Liancheng laughed. Are you coming back tonight? Jian Yun screamed and jumped up. I don't want it. Don't you like it? I think you like it too. Huo Liancheng did not understand. You can't let it go so easily, brother. Jian Yun was really speechless. We are either in bed or on the way to bed. If you're not bored, I will be bored. Yes, then what do you want? Huo Liancheng asked with a good temper. Once a week, Jin Yun immediately said. No, of course Huo Liancheng would not do it. Once every 3 days. Jin Yun also felt that the possibility of doing it once a week was not high, so she immediately gave in. No, Huo Liancheng continued to reject. What do you want? Jin Yun was about to explode. Twice a day. Huo Liancheng said seriously. No, I will die. Jin Yun pretended to cry. Are you happy to die? Huo Liancheng was reading the documents while bargaining with Jian Yun. Can you not be so dirty? Jin Yun was angry. Are you blushing again? Huo Liancheng smiled and suddenly changed the topic. Who was on the phone with just now? Huh? Jin Yun did not react for a while and was stunned for a moment. Then she subconsciously lied. Oh, it's Wu Wenjing. We chatted for a while. Huo Liancheng did not ask any more questions. The 2 of them chatted for a while, and then ended the conversation. The moment the phone was hung up, Jian Yun let out a sigh of relief. She quickly deleted the call record with Su Haiyang. She was afraid that Huo Liancheng would secretly flip through her phone again. She did not want to have any conflict with him because of this. Because this man was too petty. When Huo Liancheng came back from work on time, Jian Yun had already finished cooking. Jian Yun had the illusion that they had been living like this for many years. After dinner, Huo Liancheng went into the study room again. Jian Yun cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks and received a call from Cheng Muze. Cheng Muze wanted to confirm with her that she would go to work tomorrow and help her get off work. Before Jian Yun left without saying goodbye, Cheng Muze explained to the Human Resources Department that he had approved her annual leave. After the phone call, Jian Yun went back to her room to pack up. While she chatted with Wu Wenjing and Luo Yanyan about the 3 people's videos, she also did yoga. Not long after, Luo Yanyan and Wu Wenjing suddenly screamed. She was doing waist movement when Jian Yun, who had put her phone on the bracket, was shocked and almost moved her waist. What are you guys doing? Jian Yun supported her waist and stood up and said discontentedly. I just saw your man standing at the door. Wu Wenjing covered her mouth and screamed. I saw him too. Luo Yanyan laid on the bed and smiled at her phone. This is his house. Where is he if he isn't here? What's so strange about this? Jian Yun picked up her phone and was about to turn around to get some water when her vision suddenly turned black. Her slender waist was held by a pair of large hands, and her entire body was embraced into a strong embrace. Her breath surged, and her lips were blocked. Wu! Jian Yun made a sound like a kitten and looked at Huo Liancheng, who suddenly appeared in front of her. She bent the corner of her eyes, and her big eyes flashed with a bright light. Ah, did you kiss him? I want to see him. I want to see him. Wu Wenjing saw a figure flash past from the other end of the video and immediately screamed. Jian Yun put her arms around Huo Liancheng's neck. She turned her hand and hung up the video. She did not want to be watched by those 2. Huo Liancheng picked Jian Yun up and let go of her lips. He kissed her ear and asked with a smile. What are you talking about? Jian Yun pursed her lips and smiled. I'm just randomly chatting. I just browsed Weibo and saw some attention. A paparazzi posted on Weibo that he had important news to announce. See you on Monday. What can a paparazzi announce? Huo Liancheng frowned. Do you like those things? Chapter 305. You don't like it here? When I'm bored, I'll just take a look. Last year, the famous star 1000 Gold Slash's launcher was exposed by this entertainment reporter. The actor Yao Cheng from the previous year was also exposed by this team. The people they exposed are all celebrities, and it's something that no one knows about, so we're all looking forward to it. Jian Yun giggled. Women. Huo Liancheng shook his head. He had no interest in this topic at all. If you have the time to pay attention to paparazzi, you might as well go to the financial news. Boring. Jian Yun also replied to him. Huo Liancheng immediately raised his eyebrows. Then hurry up and do something interesting. Jian Yun's expression changed. She hurriedly pushed Huo Liancheng with her hand and said nervously, "What do you want?" "What do you think I want to do?" Huo Liancheng kissed Jian Yun's face. "I don't want it, okay? I said I would do it once every 3 days." Jian Yun softened her voice and bent her big eyes. She put her hands down and started to act cute. "That's what you said. I didn't agree." Huo Liancheng sneered. "You're not allowed to go back on your word." No, we're still betting. You're breaking the rules now." Jian Yun found another excuse. She did everything she could to not exercise with him. One day was her limit. One more time was her life. Nonsense. Huo Liancheng was in high spirits. He immediately pushed Jian Yun to the ground again. "No, I said no." Jian Yun became irritated and resisted with all her might. She felt that this was about to become her burden. If Huo Liancheng kept asking for no more, she really wanted to run away from home. "You really don't want to?" Huo Liancheng also noticed that Jian Yun's expression became ugly. He propped up his arms and looked down at her from above. Jian Yun frowned and said impatiently, "Why are you so interested? I even suspect that you are lying when you say that you did not touch women for the past 6 years. I am not lying to you." Huo Liancheng did not want to force Jian Yun. He could tell that she did not have any thoughts and did not want to reject her. He rolled over and laid down. He hugged her and rubbed his chin against her ear. He said in a low voice, "It's because I'm protecting you that I can't help it now." "Bah." Jian Yun looked at Huo Liancheng and pushed him away. She got up and left. "You're still keeping your virginity. You don't feel ashamed even if you say it out loud." "Where are you going?" Huo Liancheng also sat up. He was not angry. He wiped his face with a smile and stretched out his hand to pull Jian Yun. "Drink water," Jian Yun said snappily. "I want to drink too." Huo Liancheng let go of Jian Yun and laid down on the bed very relaxed. Jian Yun came over with her thermos and poured Huo Liancheng a glass of water. When she handed it to him, Huo Liancheng did not take it. Instead, he pointed at the thermos in her hand. Jian Yun rolled her eyes. She handed her cup over and drank the water she poured for Huo Liancheng. "Sleep." Jian Yun turned off the light and climbed onto the bed. She used a pillow to keep the distance between her and Huo Liancheng. Although Jian Yun was sleepy, she could not sleep on the bed because Huo Liancheng kept tossing and turning. His long legs kept harassing her. "What are you doing?" Jian Yun really wanted to chase Huo Liancheng out. With him here, she could not sleep well at all. Although he slept very well and did not have a bad habit of snoring and grinding his teeth, he kept moving around, making people collapse. Moreover, the smell of his body was really too manly, just like what Wu Wenjing described. It could be called walking hormones. There were many times when she did not want to sleep with him, but in the end, she still followed him. She was bewitched by the hormones in his body. "The bed is too small and my legs can't stretch straight. It's uncomfortable," Huo Liancheng said innocently. "Go to your own bed and sleep," Huo Liancheng said. Jian Yun pounded the bed gloomily. He clearly had a king-sized bed, but he had to squeeze into her small bed, which was not much bigger than a single bed. Was he sick? "If you go, I will go." Huo Liancheng acted like a rascal. He hugged Jian Yun and slept with her. She was soft and fragrant, so he did not want to sleep with her anymore. At night, he slept alone. "Ah!" Jian Yun immediately lifted the blanket and screamed as she got up. She conveniently pulled her pillow and walked out. She was flustered and exasperated. All right, I'm afraid of you. I'll go." Huo Liancheng's lips curled up into a smile of success. He also got off the bed and lazily followed Jian Yun. He kicked his slippers and entered his own bedroom. Then he saw Jian Yun angrily throw the pillow on the bed. He sneaked into the blanket like a fish. "Duer, you don't like this place?" Huo Liancheng asked. Men were never as delicate as women, but Jian Yun repeatedly refused to enter his bedroom, which made Huo Liancheng feel it. She might still be concerned about what happened that night. No. Of course Jian Yun would not admit it. Huo Liancheng's eyes became gentle. He hugged Jian Yun from behind. "Duer, I love you." Jian Yun was originally still biting the blanket and sulking when she suddenly heard Huo Liancheng say, "I love you," and his hot breath on her face. Her heart instantly fell and her teeth loosened the blanket. Her body was no longer in a tense state. "Duer, I want it." Huo Liancheng's eyes lit up when he saw Jian Yun loosen up. He took the opportunity to make a request. Jian Yun's soft heart was immediately covered by ice again. She was so angry that she'd gnashed her teeth. She turned back to glare at Huo Liancheng angrily. "Can't you be a little more promising?" "What else do you want me to be?" Huo Liancheng smiled. Jian Yun was speechless. Indeed, this person in front of her had an outer appearance, wealth, and status. He was clearly a proud son of heaven born with a gold spoon in his mouth. He was already capable enough. "Duer, okay?" Huo Liancheng's heart was itching. He kept rubbing his chin against Jian Yun's neck. He didn't even hesitate to show off. "No, ah." Before Jian Yun could say anything, she was already kissed by Huo Liancheng. She didn't have the chance to say anything else. She could only glare at Huo Liancheng angrily, waiting for an opportunity to bite him. Who knew that Huo Liancheng had already started to attack the city? The next morning, when Jianyun woke up, Huo Liancheng had already put on his clothes. He was sitting by the bed and reading the news with his phone. Sensing Jianyun's breath, he turned his head and saw Jianyun's big black and white eyes all of a sudden. Huo Liancheng raised the corner of his mouth and smiled as he reached out to touch Jianyun's face. "If you are tired, why don't you rest for another day?" Huo Liancheng said gently. "If you treat your subordinates like this, the company will be bankrupt." Jianyun rolled her eyes at him. She still hated the fact that she was forced to bow by the conqueror last night. When Huo Liancheng heard that, he raised his sword-like brows and sneered. "Do you think anyone can receive such treatment like you? Then should I thank you?" Jianyun sat up and wanted to put on her clothes. Huo Liancheng reached under the blanket and grabbed the little rabbit. Jianyun blushed and reached out to pat him. "Shameless. What's wrong with touching my own wife?" Huo Liancheng curled his lips.